You know, in South Africa, many of our people are highly disappointed by the ANC, everyone involved, the government, the president, and of course, the person who broke the news, Mr. Fikile Mbalula. They are highly disappointed that the ANC led the killer of our great leader. When you dive into the archives and the history books of South Africa, Mr. Hani, the person who killed Hani without even explaining and exposing the agendas behind him killing Hani, was recently released from prison and he was deported back to his home country so he can live his best life. Without explaining why he killed Hani, nothing. But I want you guys to listen to the reasoning of Mr. Fikile Mbalula on behalf of the ANC about this. Listen here.
The release of Janus Walus. Today, the murderer of our leader, Janus Walus, will be released from prison, if not released already, taking with him to his homeland the truth of the assassination of our leader, Comrade Martin Tembisile Crisani. We are reminded of the immense loss inflicted on our movement and our nation. Janus Walus deprived South Africa of one of its greatest leaders, and his release without a full confession of his actions and conspiracies remains an injustice. The heavy blow that he inflicted on the nation is palpably fresh, considering its painful effect on Comrade Chris' children and his wife, Comrade Hani. The assassination of Comrade Hani was a well-orchestrated scheme designed to plunge the country into chaos, an attempt to subvert the course for a negotiated political settlement, thus deferring a dream for a democratic South Africa after many years of apartheid subjugation. This move was well calculated. Ironically, the brutal killing of Comrade Hani, his selfless dedication to the struggle as a disciplined commissar of Umkhonto weSizwe, the People's Army, brought us the freedom and rights we enjoy today. This is a sad and painful moment for the Hani family, the ANC, the working class and the poor, and the South African Communist Party, for which he was the General Secretary. We, to the conscience, Janus Walus, we call on the conscience of Janus Walus to tell the whole truth about the forces that orchestrated this heinous act. We call for a comprehensive inquiry into the assassination of Comrade Hani to expose the full scope of this crime and bring closure to his family, the ANC and the people of South Africa. South Africa is no home for assassins and murderers. Walus must leave the country now.
That's what Mr. Fikile Mbalula had to say. I don't believe him. I don't believe that he feels sympathy for the family of Mr. Hani. He doesn't. I don't believe that he feels sympathy for the people of South Africa who have lost their great leader. He doesn't. Like always with everything else, he doesn't feel sympathy. So it's cold-hearted for him to even say this with a straight face, knowing very well that people won't believe him. Nobody believes what he's saying. If this was said by other people who are not in leadership to make the proper decisions, to make the proper investigations, it was going to be believable. But it's done by people who are in government. It's done by people who are in close proximity to investigate deeper. This person is in jail. You can investigate, you can do all the other things so you can get the truth behind everything and everyone involved, whether it's our own people, black people who were involved, whether it is the status quo, whether it's whatever, the people who were threatened by him. Because if you don't know Mr. Chris Hani, I know I'm young, I was not there during his time, but my grandfather has lived through those times and has told me plenty stories about how Chris Hani was admired more than even the great legendary Mandela. Yes, the great legendary Mandela. And my grandfather always says is like, the reason why Nelson Mandela is the most liked and the most respected is because that's what they made it to be. They erased the real history of Chris Hani. Chris Hani was the one on the ground when Abu Mandela were in prison. Chris Hani was the one creating this military wing, Mkhonto Wesizwe, which today they're destroying the history of it, the green beans. He is the one who was leading that. Then later he went to be the SG, the GC, the GS, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party. He was talking about these communist socialist ideas. He was the one who was the biggest threat to the white monopoly capital system during those times. And them killing him was not just a killing. That's why when you read about the way he died, they tell you this guy was assassinated. He was assassinated. You don't just assassinate someone who is not a threat. You don't just assassinate someone in J. If they had to assassinate you, assassinate your character, assassinate your reputation, or take your life, I just know they are onto you and you're a big threat. A big threat. So that's the man they killed. The man who was having a lot of hopes, was giving a lot of South Africans hopes during the times of apartheid. The man who was ready to resist the apartheid government by political education, by Mkhonto Wesizwe, giving people proper education, proper military education, whereby you know the intelligence, you know how to use the guns, you know how to fight for your country. He was the guy who was involved in leading those initiatives, leading from the front. He was not leading from behind, leading from the front until the day he passed on. He passed on in 1993, right before the elections of 1994. And according to variable sources, where you can even go online and research, people are saying if Chris Hani was still alive, the 1994 elections whereby Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa wouldn't have happened, because white people wouldn't have let it happen, because they knew Chris Hani was going to be automatically voted as the president. I don't know, I was not there. And then right before he died, he died. Right before he died, his soul, his body, and then went. And then when the news broke that he's dead, they announced the date of the votings. After he was dead, they were waiting for him to die so they can announce that, yeah, on this day in 1994, people are going to be voting. Imagine. But it is what it is. Thank you very much.